Welcome to Screw the Commute, the entrepreneurial podcast dedicated to getting you out of the car and into the money. With your host, lifelong entrepreneur and multimillionaire, Tom Antion.
Hey everybody, it's Tom here with episode 574, Screw the Commute podcast. We're here with Angela Mulrooney, and I'm pretty sure she's the first arsonist we've ever had on the show, because she said she's burning down what's holding you back to unleash your personal brand. So we could have had arsonists, but I don't know. They certainly she's the only one that's ever admitted it, put it that way. So folks, make sure you download a copy of that automation ebook I give away. I mean, it's helped me handle up to 150,000 subscribers and 65,000 customers, and just kept me from pulling my hair out. And what it does is that instead of fighting with my computer, I'm spending time with customers and prospects. So just one of the tips, we've estimated a couple of years ago, just one of the tips has saved me 7.5 million keystrokes. All of that time that I've been fooling around, cutting and pasting and typing was spent with customers. And that's why we're doing so well here. So download that at screwthecommute.com/automate free. And then while you're at it, pick up a copy of our podcast app at screwthecommute.com/app. That's app. You can put us on your cell phone and tablet and take us with you on the road. Now, we're still going strong with our program to raise money for scholarships for persons with disabilities. And I've always known that internet and digital marketing was just perfect for people with disabilities, because not only do they not have to traipse to class and kill themselves to get there, they can legitimately study from home, and they can legitimately be hired from home and or start their own business. And, you know, I've been teaching this for 25 years about working from home. Screw the commute, right? That's why this show is called Screw the Commute. And since the pandemic, everybody's working from home. Oh, you could work from home. I didn't know that. Yes, you can. I've been doing it 45 years now. So yes, you can. And I'm really proud of this program. I've raised a lot of funds for kids and dogs and everybody else, but this is something that's going to change these people's lives forever. So check it out at my school, imtcva.org. Of course, that'll be in the show notes with all Angela's arson equipment. I don't know exactly what she's going to give you. So check it out, and check out their GoFundMe account. We have 2 people in the program that are blind. Imagine that, blind, doing internet marketing and digital marketing, and very inspiring. So it's something you can really be proud of. All right, let's get to the main event. Dr. Angela Mulrooney is a global speaker, best-selling author, and personal branding expert. She works with thought leaders around the world to clarify their message through their brand archetype, while using various media platforms like LinkedIn and like this podcast and of course the stage. You know, we're all about professional speaking around here, to drive sales so these experts can change the world with what they know. Angela, you ready to screw the commute? I love her giggle. She's giggling earlier.
Oh my gosh. I don't even know what to say to that.
Yeah. Well, we can't see her, but I imagine she's blushing because she.
Yeah, it might be a little bit warm right now.
So, Angela, you were a dentist. I guess you still technically are a dentist. I don't know, but tell us your story of how you got into this branding from being a dentist.
Sure. So I had started liking teeth when I was 2 years old. My parents don't even know where that came from.
Liking teeth? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Liking
for some
teeth.
reason, I started wanting to stick my fingers in everyone's mouths and see what was in there. So that obsession kind of carried me through in high school, and I was very good academics. So people were like, "Oh, you should be doing medicine. Dentistry is for the not so smart kids." And I was like, "Okay, maybe I should explore this medicine thing." And then I went to a Discover Us Day at the University of Saskatchewan, and I got to drill on a plastic tooth, and I was sold. So that set my path moving forward. I finished dental school at 24, went into the world of being a dentist for realsies, and realized that my shyness was a big impediment to potentially my success. So I decided to work with children because they were easy. I could just tell them stories. I didn't really have to come up with spontaneous engagement. And so that carried me through the first 4 years of my career. And then I
Now, was
reached a
this your own
plateau.
practice? Was this your own practice, or you worked at another
No,
office?
no, this is working at a few different practices.
Okay.
And if you're someone who wants to work with kids, you're a hot ticket item, because most dentists are like, I don't want to work with kids. That's way too stressful.
I think the kids would be fine if you'd get the parents and tell them to get lost. Just like when they get their
Yeah.
haircut. The parents standing there and the kid's going crazy. The kid would be fine if the parents would go shopping or something. Just get out there.
Oh, yes, there was a threshold that the parents were not allowed to cross.
Beautiful.
So I reached a plateau, and then I realized, something has to change. Otherwise, I'm not going to get any better at my job. So I started looking at maybe going to specialty school. And then I ran into an old boss of mine who was working at this practice for a 78-year-old dentist. And he was like, and I really don't like doing dentistry. So why don't you just take this position off my hands? So I said, okay. So sight unseen, I agreed to work in this practice. And I showed up Monday morning and walked into the most broken down, beaten up practice I have ever seen in my life, and started to wonder, I feel like I got sucked in here. And the funny thing is, it was broken down, but it was just full of potential. It was full of all these patients who were super afraid of the dentist. They had a lot of work that needed to be done, because unfortunately the old dentist couldn't see very well the last few years of his life. And so I decided to buy the practice, even though I had no intention ever of buying a practice, because I was still dancing professionally at that time. So I was like, yeah, I just go to work and play with teeth. And then at night I go to the studio and perform. So I had this massive shift in my focus and perspective, bought this practice, got hooked onto my entrepreneurial dream, the adrenaline rush of a new endeavor. And it carried me until I realized that we were in the full throes of the global financial crisis, about 12 months into ownership. And then I started to realize, oh my gosh, what have I done? So I ended up having to get help and learn how to be a business owner, because the thrill of the adrenaline wasn't enough to actually help me to get through this economic crisis. And luckily, I surrounded myself with some amazing coaches who trained me to work smarter instead of harder, turned the practice into my dream practice. I got my dream skill set doing IV station, sleep apnea. Treating phobic patients was really my focus. So the thing I realized later in life was that treating scared children and treating scared adults is pretty much the same thing, except scared adults say way meaner things because they have a much bigger vocabulary. And so it wasn't that much different. It was just more complex, the kind of cases that we were doing. So luckily I was able to build a brand, used my skill set to be able to develop a referral program so that other dentists who hated working with people who were afraid of the dentist, they could actually send me their patients. So got to a point where everything was great. I had an amazing team. I was doing the dentistry I loved. I had patients I loved. And then I ended up starting to have pain in my drilling hand. And 3 months after that pain became unbearable, my hand stopped working during a procedure, and my last day as a dentist came and went.
Wow. I bet that was traumatic for two people.
Yeah. Luckily, we were at the end of the procedure, so it was a major surgery. She was under for 5 hours, but it was time to just suture her back up when my hand stopped working. So I let my assistant know what was going on, and she was very in tune with me. So we went in. I used my left hand, which is still pretty dexterous. She used her 2 hands to make up for my lack of my right hand, and we got the patient put back together and safe. And then it was starting to unravel the mystery of what was happening with my hand for the next 6 months after that.
Yikes. So I'm starting to get a feel for you. Now, so you had a bunch of patients that were pain in the neck. Is that why you decided to get certifications in sedation? I think that's what I would do. Put them to sleep.
Honestly, I didn't really want to use the IV station. So that was my last resort. My goal was always to get these people who are scared are like feral little cats, right? They're terrified, but if you can work with them and be patient, you can get them eating out of your hand, right? And so my goal was always to not use IV sedation. It was to actually get them going from being this patient that they've been told they're bad, and that they're scared of the dentist and they're terrible in the chair, to someone who goes, okay, yeah, I can get myself comfortable here because I know they're going to be patient with me. I know they're going to be kind, and be able to get them into a regular program instead of in the IV sedation
Well, I
program.
thought they gassed them. Is that old school or what?
Gas, the nitrous is what it's called.
Is it
Yeah,
or
we
helium?
don't
I
send
don't
them to
know.
the gas chamber. The gas is a very mild form. So when you use IV sedation, you have more of a direct line to their brain, really. And so it allows you to control it at a higher level, and you can take them a little bit deeper. So we just did moderate sedation. So they weren't completely out. They were still responsive if you asked them a question, but they would not actually be able to remember the conversation. So the agent that we used caused amnesia, which is part of the benefit of it, is because if they're really scared of the dentist, it's the trauma of the surgery or the procedure that keeps them scared. So if we could eliminate that, it helped them to be able to become a regular patient.
Must be the same stuff they give you for colonoscopies, because they tell you you're going to have amnesia.
Just the other end of the tube.
Yeah, the other end. Yeah, yeah. so it must be. You can't hit them though, right?
No, that is not allowed.
No. Well, you're in Canada. Everybody's nice up there. I forgot. So probably why I got kicked out of. When I went to college, I actually audited a dental hygiene class thinking I was going to be a dentist. So it was me and 30 female dental hygienists, and I didn't last long. I figure I'm not cut out to be in a little outfit in a office all day long. That's for sure. So, but I remember here's the interesting thing I think about dentists is over time they have become somewhat psychologists, because I remember I'm so far over the hill. I don't remember going up the hill, Angela. So I remember my dentist in my little town had a leather strap that would run his drill. It was a little motor tied to a strap, and then if you had to get a shot, he pulled this giant horse needle out, like 8 inches long, and held it up in front of your face, and like, here I come, bonsai. And now they hide it behind their back, and they say, oh, this is just going to pinch a little bit. And then they sneak it up low where you can't see it, and then shove it up into your brain, and it still hurts. So I think that's a psychological thing that they did. So, but you said you worked for a dentist that couldn't see. That's interesting.
Yeah, well, he was 78, and
but he was still practicing though, right?
He was still practicing, and his team was trying to be his eyes from the other side. And some days he would let them be his eyes, and some days he would tell them to screw off.
Oh my God. It kind of reminds me, did you ever see that really hysterical thing with Tim Conway? He was an older comedian that he was a dentist, and he kept stabbing the people with Novocaine in different places. You got to look that up on YouTube. It's a classic.
I will have to look that up.
It's a classic. So now, boom, one day you've got a practice, you've got money tied up in it, and whap. So what was that time period like?
So the 6 months after my hand stopped working was psychological torture, because everyone was trying to give me hope and be like, you're going to get back to this. They're going to figure it out, la, la, la.
Well, were you able to bring other dentists in to keep the thing going, or did you just have to close the practice? Okay, good.
Yeah, so I was able to bring in some substitute dentists. But once my hand stopped working, like the pain for the 3 months before, I was like, I can get through this, I can push through this. And then once my hand stopped working, there was this shift in my body that I knew I was done. And so the hope that everyone was trying to infuse me with and all the advice was this big conflict inside me, because I'm like, well, maybe they're right, but maybe I'm right. And then when I finally got the diagnosis 6 months later, at the Mayo Clinic in Scottsdale, it was actually a huge relief, because the battle was over. I knew where I stood. I knew I had some big decisions to make as to what my future was going to hold, what my practice was going to do. And there was finally a bit of peace there, because there wasn't that that unknown that had been hanging over my head for so long.
Well, is this a permanent thing? I mean, could you do something right this moment because everything's much better and you're not using it, or is it shot forever?
It's shot forever and it progressively gets worse. So unfortunately, my hand is done when it comes to high dexterity things. So I had to make some decisions how I was going to move on with my life.
But gross motor movements are okay, or will be okay?
Yeah, there's some deterioration of the muscle chains, which have caused a little bit of twisting in my spine and whatnot. But I still do gymnastics. I can still dance and everything else. I just have to be mindful of how I use my body.
Can you tie your shoe?
I can. Who has shoelaces? I live in Nicaragua now, so I wear flip flops.
Can you lift a fork and spoon?
Yeah, I can lift a fork and spoon. Have
and
problems opening bottles, but
But you said it'll be getting worse, though, right?
Yeah.
Wow, boy. Okay, so that was now you have at least a little piece of what's going on. Then what?
So for the 2.5 years after that, I kept the practice because all the advisors around me were like, "You've built this brand. You're a trusted dentist in the community. People will still send you patients. Just bring in associates." So I did that.
Did you go in? Did you go in at all?
I was allowed to go in for limited hours, according to the disability insurance. And every day that I went in, it was like someone tore the scab off my heart and I started bleeding again.
I see.
So it wasn't really very fun. And, I was trying to listen to these experts because they'd seen other people go through this and they said, this is what you should do. So I listened until I couldn't listen anymore. And then in 2015, the oil crash happened. And my practice was in Calgary, which is the headquarters of oil and gas in our province. And the economy sank. It was tanking so much faster than what I'd witnessed with the global financial crisis. So I decided, you know what? I'm not doing this with me not being able to practice. And I decided to peace out, sold the practice for half of its value, and it was time to move on with my life and pass the torch.
Got it. So how'd you come up with the idea of helping other dentists?
Well, I took the next year after I sold the practice to build my professional dance company, which is called Unleashed Dance Company. And I took that year away from dentistry because people knew who I was. And so if I'd run into them, they'd heard what had happened and there was pity on their face. So I didn't want to have to deal with that. And so I just spent a year building the company. We were the second largest adult-based Latin company in our city by 6 months into opening the company. And I spent that time on the floor, just kind of letting all the pieces that had exploded start to come down and fit together and see what it kind of really meant as to what had happened. And what I realized was, I had been through so many experiences in that practice, more than most people will have in a 30, 40-year career. And so I decided there was lessons I had learned the really hard way that I could reach back to other dentists and pull them forward and help them to have success so much easier than I did, because I could show them the easier way to avoid all these pitfalls that I had fallen into. And so I built my dental coaching company, which is called Unleashing Dentistry's Potential, and started to help people to niche into their practice. And to get that company understood, I took to LinkedIn, started talking about niching, branding, dentistry, what I knew. And I went from 200 to 12,000 industry followers in a year. And then people started to ask me, can you do that for me? And so I started dabbling with other people's LinkedIn accounts to see if I could actually get them to get that exposure that I had. And I was able to do that. So then Unleashing Influence became an official company in January of 2020. Imagine that, perfect timing, 2 months before the pandemic hits.
I'm not going to stand next to you in a lightning storm, put it that way.
Yeah, I would say that's probably a good idea. But what happened was the dance company got decimated, the dental company got decimated, and Unleashing Influence took off. We went from 2.5 full-time team members to 14 full-time team members in the first 10 months of the pandemic.
Wow.
So of all the companies that I could have bet on, that was not the one that I would have bet on in a pandemic, but it was the one that survived and thrived during tough economic times.
Well,
so
see,
it's interesting to watch
There's only one mistake I see you made
What's that?
because you're so nice. When all those people were pitying you, I would have milked that for all it was worth. I'd have started a GoFundMe campaign for myself. So,
GoFundMe existed back then.
oh man, I'm not clear. Does this company only help dental professionals, or did you expand to anybody that needs branding?
So anyone who needs branding. So a lot of the people that there's kind of two camps of people that I work with. So I have entrepreneurs, healthcare and non-healthcare entrepreneurs who have wanted to pivot to having the freedom from brick and mortar. So honestly, the pandemic scared the crap out of them, and they decided they did not want to be at the mercy of brick and mortar in case something else happened. So those people started to come to me wanting to develop their personal brands so that they could develop online programs, be able to work as a digital nomad, like they've seen me do moving from Calgary to Nicaragua, and be able to really ensure their future against any kind of disaster as long as there's an internet connection. And then I have the other camp, which is high-level executives, CEOs, VPs in companies who are looking 5 years down the road going, okay, I will have to leave this company at some point, and I would like to have a resume of content of how I think about things that I can pull on so that I can move into, again, that digital nomad situation where, they have this, people can look at their LinkedIn profile, they can see the expertise that they bring, they can niche into their expertise and consult with companies if they want, or they can get another C-suite position with another company, but they're trying to future-proof themselves.
Got it. And where'd you say you're living now?
Nicaragua.
Now, see, this is the first time I've ever heard a South American Canadian accent. You don't hear that every day. So, oh boy, you've been run through the ringer. Now, we got to take a brief sponsor break. When we come back, we'd like to know what's a typical day like, especially living in, I can't even say it right, Nicaragua. I can't even do it. I can say it American, Nicaragua, or hillbilly or redneck. Yeah, Nicaragua. Where's that place? So, folks, about 24, 25 years ago, I kind of turned the internet marketing guru world on its head, and that people at my level were charging 50 or 100 grand up front to help small business people. And, I knew a lot of these people. They'd be hiding out in Nicaragua if you gave them 50 grand and expected them to help you. So I said, that's too risky for small business people. I'm going to kind of turn this upside down. And I just charged an entry fee. And then for me to get my 50 grand, you had to net 200 grand. Well, people really love this. And 1,700 students later, it's still going strong. It's the longest running, most successful, most unique internet and digital marketing mentor program ever. And I always triple dog dare anybody to put their program up against mine, and nobody will do it because there's no way that line for line they can beat a fanatic like me. I actually threw a seminar on Thanksgiving one time because I forgot it was Thanksgiving. So that's how fanatic I am. But anyway, it's got a lot of unique features. It's one-on-one with me and my staff. It's immersion weekend in the Great Internet Marketing Retreat Center in Virginia Beach. It's the only facility of its kind in the world. You have time in our TV studio where we shoot videos for you, edit them, send them to you, put the graphics on, do the whole bit. And you also get a scholarship to my school. It's the only licensed internet and digital marketing school in the country that's dedicated to that topic, and it's certified to operate by SHEV, the State Council of Higher Education in Virginia. So you can either gift that to someone, which would be one of the best things you could ever do for a young person, because all they're learning how to do now is protest, and then they're getting their MBAs and compete for jobs at Starbucks. So this is a highly in-demand skill that you can either use yourself for extra training or gift it to somebody. So there's loads of other really powerful features to our program. So check it out at greatinternetmarketingtraining.com, and we'll discuss. You don't have to worry about high pressure around here. If you don't see the value of this, then I can't help you. So check it out, greatinternetmarketingtraining.com, and we'll check out your future online. right, let's get back to the main event. We have Angela Mulrooney here, and she has gone through a devastating business loss that turned into a massively great business. So she's really been able to pivot. And the only one thing I wonder about her is her posterior aesthetic. I don't know. Are you into posterior aesthetics? What is that?
Posterior aesthetics. Where are we getting that one from?
It's on your LinkedIn profile. It's CEREC, Advanced Anterior and Posterior Advanced.
Okay, so posterior aesthetics in dentistry has to do with your back teeth,
Oh,
not your rear end.
I had a completely different picture in my mind there. I'm saying, man, she's got a dance school. She's, sedates people and then worries about their posterior aesthetic.
I love how we can take things out of context.
Well, no wonder I
twist them.
didn't make it in dental school.
Oh.
Oh, the back teeth. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because I would really been afraid if I didn't realize it was teeth and you started talking about the bite wings and of your your butt. So anyway, what the? Oh, and wait, there's one other thing I found out about you. You have an implant mentorship. What is that?
So those are dental implants, not tube or butt implants.
There we go. I was picturing a completely different kind of implant. So I always recommended that you get one at a time to see if you really like them, but I didn't know it was teeth. So tell us what's a typical day like in Nicaragua for you, and why are you there? That's another good question.
Let's start with why I'm here. So I made the decision that I did not want to see snowflakes anymore.
Okay. Well, don't come to the United States because we're full of them.
Yeah.
That's a different kind of snowflake.
I was living in Calgary, which is near Banff. So we're near the mountains. So you can have snow for way too many months of the year.
Yep.
And I was done with it. So, and with the condition in my hand, the focal dystonia, the cold actually makes the pain severely worse. So I made the decision my original plan was actually to go do international business development in Australia, South Africa, the UK. And after I made that decision during the pandemic, Canada had a massive spike in cases and all those countries closed their borders. So there was no chance of me even going there. So I still put my house on the market and it sold in a couple of months' time. And I was free from all my, I guess, physical items because I'd sold them off. And so I embarked on an adventure and landed in Nicaragua. 5 days after I got here, all the flights back to Canada got canceled. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess this is what I'm doing. So luckily, all my work is online, aside from when I'm speaking at events, but most of the events were shut down anyway for 2020 and 2021. So I just kept doing my work as usual with my clients online, continued to build that, and just made my life down here.
Yeah. I haven't been on a plane in 2.5 years, and I love it. I just love staying home. But what's it like down there?
It is paradise. I'm 500-meter walk from the beach, and sunset every night. I haven't seen a sunset that wasn't spectacular yet.
Wow. So
there's that. There's great surfing. There's like jungle everywhere. I actually recently ran the 4x4x48, which is you're really running 2 marathons in 2 days. So you run 4 hours or 4 miles every 4 hours for a 48-hour period.
Jeez.
And it was interesting because I was running the same path over and over again, but you're running through the jungle at night because in that 48-hour period, some of those 4 hours are at night.
Wow.
So it was interesting running through the jungle and being like, you know what? I'm actually really not scared of the animals here because, as long as you're making noise, they scatter away because they're wild. And it was an interesting experience to do it anyway, but also do it in a country like this. Definitely added some nuance to it that
Did you have
was
like
unexpected.
headlights on or a headlamp or? Yeah.
Yes, I did have a headlamp because the road I was on, some of the rocks are pretty big. So the likelihood of twisting an ankle or breaking an ankle are pretty
Yeah.
high if you're not paying attention. So that's definitely helped keep me safe.
Well, speaking of safe, is it generally safe to live down there, or are you in an expat community or what?
There's a lot of expats down here.
Hmm.
I'm not in a closed gated community or anything like that, but there's a lot of expats. There's a lot of tourists, and it's a small town. I'm in San Juan del Sur, which is like 18,000 people. So it's pretty close-knit community. There's locals who have lived here forever. There's expats, there's tourists. So there's quite a variety of people to interact with. And a lot of the expats and the tourists coming through are also digital nomads. You get to meet some really
Hmm.
interesting entrepreneurs along the way.
So are they generally the locals generally accepting of folks coming in and living down there?
Sometimes, sometimes not.
Uh,
So there's, you know, there's racism, there's prejudice, and from the history of what has gone on, it makes sense as to why that exists. Obviously, I try to set a good example, and sometimes I get lambasted because I'm not one of them, and that's just the way it is. You know, we are human beings, and we have our biases, and I'd never experienced that before because I was living in Canada, and it was just I'd seen it happen to people who were immigrants. So now I'm understanding, like I was empathetic to what I would see before and would step in wherever I could. But it's interesting being on the receiving end and being like, oh, this is not a nice feeling. I can imagine how awful it would feel. And like my language skills with Spanish are pretty terrible. So my ability to save myself in a situation like that and talk and explain is not great. So sometimes you just kind of skulk away and go, oh, well, they judged me harshly for something that really I didn't deserve to be judged for, but c'est la vie. This is how humans are.
yeah, I don't think "C'est la vie" works there too.
No.
So, yeah, my buddy. Well, I was staying with him on a sailboat down in Cabo San Lucas, and before I came down, this is a long time ago. He said, "Get a Rolex watch, and you can use it to bribe your way out if people are giving you a hassle." And he said, and say, what did he tell me? He said, say, "Puedo pagar." He said, "Puedo pagar," I can pay. That's what he told me. Well,
Mm-hmm.
"Puedo pagar" is I can pay. "Puedo pagar" is I can hit you. So
Oh,
I would have been in worse shape if I'd have done what he told me to do. So, so yeah,
yes.
yeah. So language definitely can get you in trouble. So, what's a typical day like for you there?
Typically, I get up. I have a little puppy. She's a miniature pincher,
Mm,
so she needs lots of walking. So we walk along the beach in the morning, come back, meditate, do yoga. If I can get her to sleep, then I will try to go for a run, and then I start work around 9 or 9:30, and I work with all my clients online. So I take meetings in the morning. I work with my clients in the afternoon. Sometimes in the evenings, I have online lectures. And I've been trying to, since I divested down, like I sold off my dance company, the coaching company, as well as the agency part of Unleashing Influence. So now I just do my specific work. And so that has allowed me to pare back from 100 hours a week down to a more normal working schedule. So it's been quite nice. And now I actually get to enjoy paradise. Whereas I felt like the first year I was here, I was looking at paradise through the window while staring at my screen and talking to my clients. So it was definitely a wake-up call moving down here and realizing how unbalanced my life had become because of my ambition.
well, start a dance company down there. See how it goes. I wonder if
Yeah,
they'll accept that.
people want me to, and I kind of have had a falling out with dance. I have needed a break from it, so it's tempting, but it's not something I want to do right now.
Well, this has certainly been an interesting interview, from professional doctor to business owner to whap smacked in the face with a debilitating injury. Is it considered an injury or a disease or what?
It would be considered an injury because people who end up with it have a genetic predisposition. But if you're not doing a high dexterity job, it won't manifest.
I see.
So it is pushed by pushing your dexterity. So yes, it would be kind of like an overuse injury that has a central nervous
not a
system.
traumatic incident.
Right,
injury.
right.
Yeah,
it's not like I got into a car accident and my hand got smushed.
Right. So but she turned it around, made it. Only 100 hours a week. She's kind of a little slacker, but
lazy.
But running through the jungle, avoiding snowflakes, and I was referring to all the young people around snowflakes instead of. So, and I'm sure you were aware of the trucker thing up in Ottawa, right? You heard about that? The
Yes.
truckers?
Yes.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. I'm not really welcome in Canada very much. So the first time I went up there to speak, oh man, I'm a big shot now. I'm an international speaker. Woo. So at the border, they said, "What are you doing up here?" And I said, "Oh, I'm here to speak." "You getting paid for it?" "I am. I'm so proud of myself." This is back when you had to have a work permit. They said, "Oh, is that right? Well, come on over here a minute." 6 hours later, I was still being interrogated, and I had to bribe my way out of there to get up to the event up in, it was up in Ottawa. It was it was where it was that giant building where they had the G7 summit, the big log cabin thing. And I get up there and the meeting planner's all drunk, and I said, "Why didn't you tell me about this at the border?" She said, "Oh, you should have lied to him." I said, "Yeah, I'd be in jail by now." So every time I go to Canada now, they pull me aside and for an hour. So
once you have a mark on your name,
I'm marked.
They don't really let it go.
I'm a marked man, but one of my favorite comedians is Kathleen Madigan, and she did a tour up in Canada, and she said, "You know what? Canada's like the attic to the United States." Says, "You forget it's up there, but it's got some cool stuff up there." So I said, "Yeah, it sure does, but they don't like me." So thanks so much, Angela, for coming on. Now tell them you got something for them, right?
Absolutely. So with the work that I do with Unleashing Influence, if you are looking to build your personal brand on LinkedIn, I'm always happy to hop on a 30-minute call. You can use it to look at your brand. You can ask questions, whatever you want. So you can get that by going to unleashinginfluence.com/contact.
All right. We'll have that in the show notes, unleashinginfluence.com/contact for a wonderfully generous consultation with Angela. And I tell you what, like I said, she's been there and done that. You've been up and down and all around, and came through beautifully. So thanks so much for coming on, Angela. Had a blast.
My pleasure. It's been fun.
Yeah, I'm going to go work on my posterior aesthetic. So we'll catch everybody on the next episode. See you later.